Oh. Good evening and welcome to Access Iowa City, a program about the independent living and rehabilitation movements in southeastern Iowa. Access to Iowa City is brought to you by a generous contribution from the Noon Pilots Club of Johnson County in collaborations with the Extended Dream Foundation, Access to Independence, and the Center for Disabilities and Development, as well as the hard work from all the folks here at Public Access TV Channel 18. I'm Terry Cunningham, President of the Access to Independence Board of Directors, Vice Chair of the Johnson County Mental Health Disability Services Planning Council, and an individual who's lived with a significant disability for over 41 years. We're back with part 2 of our show with our local legislators, and we're going to talk about some more interesting issues with Senator Dvorsky and Representative Jacoby, and of course with Keith Ruff.
Yeah.
Well, we ended, although we'll never completely end it, with the conversation about the mental health disability redesign process, and I think we'll jump ahead to some other things, and if we have time, we can come back to redesign. But one of the things that you had mentioned earlier was the whole education issue and some of the things about workforce. And what do you guys see as priorities for, or unfulfilled priorities from this last session, or new priorities in the coming session?
I think one of the key things because it's just developed over the last couple months, is the fact that through the governor's office and our Iowa Workforce Development Centers, they terminated contracts with 10 of our community colleges. And that includes Kirkwood Community College, one of the top performing community colleges in the nation. So it's we're in that area of where we don't know what the future of workforce development is going to be, but what we do know is the fact that the governor, through administrative rule, has disconnected some of those valuable partnerships, and I don't know what the future is going to be, both for our youth, young people ages 14 to 21, to get employment and training opportunities and internships, and then for adults 22 and over, for dislocated workers and people facing significant challenges to employment. There's no roadmap as to what's going to be in place to help people secure those employment opportunities. So it's a little bit of uneasiness, but what makes me most uneasy about it is that we have so many people, when you have 7-8% of your population underemployed or unemployed, what are they going to do? And it's real nice that we can sit around at tables and decide what we can and can't do, but right now there's people looking for jobs, looking for training, and they can't access it because of, again, people sitting around a table saying, well, what should we do? Well, don't dismantle a system until you have another system in place. And that's my biggest frustration is administratively, without legislative review, the governor and Teresa Whalert from Iowa Workforce Development have made decisions that are right now today hurting thousands of people.
I think, go ahead, Keith.
Before any decisions were made, were there any alternative offered?
I'm sorry? If I understand the question, part of the problem is there was no discussions held at all. and that includes the state workforce board, local partners, people, vocational rehabilitation, any of our local service providers. No one was at the table when those decisions were made.
But when they made these decisions, they didn't offer any alternative.
As far as I know,
Okay.
there was no discussion on alternatives or what direction to go. And it was, again, that's very frustrating.
Yes.
You know, sometimes when you make decisions to end programs, you have something else in place or a direction to go. They did not.
Okay.
It was almost, I don't know if the word vindictive is the right word, but it seems like that in many ways it was vindictive toward the system, but more importantly toward the people who access the system.
Thank you, Dave.
And I think to Keith's point about any alternatives, the one area that they've sort of moved, saying that we're going to close some of these offices and cut back on working with community colleges, and we're going to offer these things on these kiosks and at libraries and other places. My understanding is the United States Department of Labor came in and looked at those and said that they really weren't a good alternative, that they didn't really.
That's correct.
Right.
And the Department of Labor is approximately 60% of the funding
Right.
for the workforce centers, and they did come in and say, you're not meeting your minimum requirements to be a workforce center. And here in Johnson County, we had East Dell Plaza, which with vocational rehabilitation services, DHS was there for a while, Iowa Workforce Development, a number of other agencies all in the same building, and and Kirkwood Community College, all sharing the same building. And because they administratively made the cut, actually, to be honest about it too, they made the cut without any discussion. It was a letter received by the partners on July 23rd and gave them 8 days notice. So there were, on the community college side, there's 61 people being laid off who provide educational services, training services, and testing services to see what people want to do in the future. So 61 people, and that's statewide, and about 10 of those are local with Kirkwood Community College here in our area.
I'm just sort of amazed that you don't get, maybe because it's such inside baseball or in the weeds things going on, but how you don't get a lot more outcry from people, you know, in the state about this. I mean, nationally, we keep talking about, you know, we're climbing out of this recession and growth is fairly slow, and the watchword is supposed to be jobs, jobs, jobs. And under jobs, you need training or retraining. And here's an instance where you're cutting back on people's availability of training and retraining, and you don't hear any great outcry there. I don't understand if people don't know what's going on or assume too much or whatever. But I'm just amazed that you had this system in place that was actually meeting some of those needs. It wasn't perfect, but it was meeting some of those needs of people being trained and retrained for various jobs. And now you've thrown this wrench into it, and I don't hear a great deal of outcry. I mean, I think that would certainly be looked into, and you know, if the governor's going to go ahead and do those things, what is his alternative, as Keith says? What was he trying to get to? You know, he keeps talking about creating more jobs in Iowa, and then he sort of uses doesn't use the net jobs, he just uses how many jobs he's created each month, how many jobs have been created in Iowa each month, doesn't take away any that have been lost. So he really hasn't created, there hasn't been that big of increase in jobs the last few years, and you know, maybe one of the reasons is we don't have a vibrant workforce development system. We need to look into that.
I think that's an excellent point, Bob. And we in the disability world deal with that all the time, in that how do you get the folks who are being affected by these things to let the powers that be know this isn't right. You know, these are problems. It's causing great distress, and you know, one of the things that I find problematic, and we talk to with folks all the time, is to contact you guys, and it just frustrates me to no end that when you talk, oh, what, you can't do that, you know, they're not going to talk. You know, call them, talk to them. They will talk to you. They want to hear from you. You know, it's not a problem. You know, and you know, let them know. Write a letter to them. You know, well, who reads letters? They truly do.
Yeah. We
and
do.
If we don't talk about it, you know, it's fine to have other people going and talking on folks with disabilities' behalfs or folks who are unemployed, whatever. But I don't know how many times in talking with either boards of supervisors at the local level or you guys at the state level or federal legislators, we hear, why aren't the folks this directly affects telling us that there's a problem? You know, we have all these other groups coming and telling us it's a problem, but the people actually being served who are losing a benefit don't come to us and say, hey, why did you do this? Or why did somebody else do this? This was working, what are we supposed to do now? And, you know, the fact that you guys are just real folks, you know, I just find it very strange that you don't hear or that people won't, you know, contact you with issues for a belief that, you know, my little voice doesn't count. Well, you know, but lots and lots of little voices do.
Yes.
They seem to rely too much on those of us who do speak out. And it's a very apathetic way of looking at things.
Well, the whole workforce thing. I happen to know several people right now who are looking for work and have used the little kiosks at different places and that, and have found them incredibly frustrating because they don't have the basic computer skills to be able to use the system without help. And at so many of the locations where they've been put in, there isn't anybody there to help. And you get this, well, you know, you can interact with them if you push this button. Well, if you don't know how to push the button, you can't interact.
Or if you physically can't.
Yeah, good point.
Well, both your Keith and Terry's point, everyone that brings an issue to us is so very important to us. And Keith, you're right, because I talk to you, but it also helps to hear from other families that are having the same challenges. And just recently, in fact, it was a week ago today, because of the decisions made with the workforce system, I was contacted by a woman going to school at Kirkwood, plans on transferring to the University of Iowa. She happens to be a single mom that has 2 young children, and she's receiving FIP right now, but she's in the middle of an education plan that she's working hard on, and she's going to school full-time, 2 children, plans on being a school teacher when she's done. She also happens to be a veteran from Iraq, and she's struggling to put the pieces together because her and her husband are no longer together, and now this uncertainty, she's in the middle of her plan, her individual employment plan, and she says that she comes out and says, Dave, I'm very worried, will I be able to go to school this fall? And that's what really hurts, is when people are in the middle of a plan, they've put it together. She's going to make a great teacher, I know that, just from talking to her. But she's because of the changes in the workforce. Here we have a young veteran mom who's worried about if she's going to be able to complete school and complete her training plan. And she shouldn't have to worry. It's going to be a struggle, but she should have everything in place ready to go. And because of decisions made at the state level, it's a little frustrating. But because she contacted people, we're going to make sure that, you know, the support system for the veterans at Kirkwood, and of course John over at the university, they're great people to work with. But it's just that fear that she had about what the future is, and those are the kind of personal stories that you have to put a face on it.
Yeah.
When people put a face on it, I found that among all the legislators I work with, it's harder to look someone in the eye and say no. But if the people don't contact them, then it's easier to say no.
Mm-hmm. So I think any more participation you could get, and I mean, it's the smallest enough state, and we have small enough districts. We try and get around as much as possible and be as accessible as possible. And now with the social media and everything, I mean, we certainly,
Sure.
you know, are trying to be really accessible. Even though some of us, you know, more older legislators have some trouble accessing some of those things, but I usually just ask my daughter. So
There you go. So you have your own live-in
Right,
techie.
right.
Yes.
The rest of us just stumble and don't join the 21st century willingly.
Well, my teenage daughters won't go to a grocery store with me because even if they know we're going to pick up 1 or 2 items, we'll probably be there for 2 hours
Right.
talking about
That's
property
right.
taxes or mental health redesign or other issues. But they do notice too that the local people, Senator Dvorsky and myself, and Mary Masher and Vicki Lenzing and everyone, and Joe Bolcom, we enjoy it. And I know the local delegation will always take time.
Right.
It's not that Jerry and I don't want to do what we're doing, but if we got a little more participation from the people who are complaining, it would help.
Keith, one of the things that statistic that really scared me the other day was that there were 90 million people in the United States that said they weren't going to vote.
Wow.
And of that, they did some sort of polling, and if they did vote, they were going to vote for President Obama 2-1. So I mean, it's kind of an amazing statistic there, and I didn't get a chance to read, you know, why they said they didn't want to vote or, you know, refused to vote. That to me is the worst thing. I'd rather have, I don't necessarily want people not voting for me, but I'd rather have somebody come in and participate than to not participate in the system, and that's really important.
Well, I think we're at a point in time too, and I know we say every election is important. This one is hugely important at the local, state, and national level. But I think what's new to the system is the amount of money being spent, the amount of unidentified money being invested in the elections. And I know a number of people who have stopped and talked at a grocery store while they say, it's really getting out of control, I don't like it, and my favorite is, I hate negative ads.
Yeah.
Well, then I ask them what negative ad they don't like, and they can tell me verbatim what negative ad it is.
Right.
And then I say, oh my gosh, it's a negative ad. I hate them too. It's too early for me to get these wheels rolling, but you remembered every word of it. And so that doggone negative ad did its job because you remember it.
Yeah.
So I think that may disenfranchise some voters, other than some of the goofy tricks some of the states are trying to do to disenfranchise voters. But I think at some level people are saying it's so corporate, it's out of my control. Will my vote count? And it most certainly will. Everyone's vote counts and counts immensely.
I just try to convince people that if for nothing else, they should vote because that's their license to complain afterwards.
That's right.
If you don't vote,
No.
don't complain.
Don't complain.
Because you didn't do anything to try to prevent it.
Like, did you complain about the law affecting you? Don't complain until you try to use the law in the right manner.
Mm-hmm.
I know years ago when I served in the Coralville City Council, I had another fellow council member who would write down whoever came to the council meeting, and then he checks, make sure they were registered or they had voted or not. And so he determined, how he would deal with them based on that. So I never did that, but it certainly is a little irritating if you're involved in any kind of government like that. If you have people who don't participate, you know, I think ignoring the system, it just, you know, I guess the other way to look at it is if you don't mind having other people decide for you what the laws are going to be or who's going to run everything, then fine, don't participate.
Well, I join you on that, but I'll take it one step further. It's all right if you're gonna complain about them, but it's not okay to complain and not do anything about it.
All right, and we really, in Johnson County and even other counties around here, we really try and make an effort to allow people to vote. They can vote early, and this year, I think it's September, what, 27th?
27th is
First day you can go down and
Wow.
vote. I want to go down and vote that day, and
Yeah.
we like to see other people too. The sooner we can get people voted, I think the better people are going to feel about the election and to move forward. So September 27th, I believe, so.
And the one thing we can probably count on is that it's going to be much nicer to vote in September than it is in November.
Yes.
Yes, weather-wise.
But yes.
Weather-wise and all the broadcast stuff that's going to come at you in the next few months.
And I believe it's true, you guys can clarify this for sure, if you vote early, you get scratched off a list and you don't get political calls and that after?
I'm glad you brought it up, Terry. I was going to bring that up as an impetus to vote early on September 22nd, but 27th. As far as I understand, yes, that's generally true. If you're already on the auditor's list, which is public information that you voted, obviously no one will ever know how you voted, but
Right.
if you voted, then you will most likely be scratched off anyone's list, either advocating for a certain candidate or just advocating that you get out and vote. So sometimes that's a little motivation for some people
It
to
is.
vote early, whether you're a Democrat, Independent, or Republican, as it takes you off the call list.
Well, and I'm sure, you know, you guys, everybody who's running likes it because that eliminates wasted time for
Right.
candidates. If you see that this person's already voted, or that these several hundred or several thousand folks have already voted, there's no sense calling them.
No, right,
Yeah.
right.
So, you know, you get concentrated a little more. But yes, so.
Then we can work on the 90 million out there that say they aren't going to vote.
Oh, God, that's just so scary.
That's a fantastic number.
It is, it's a little shocking.
Yeah,
I had not
yeah.
heard that until today.
I think it was
That's-
on the front of USA Today, or one of those. Amazing. But I don't think there's really an excuse in Johnson County not to vote. There's all kinds of opportunities to vote early,
Yeah.
you know, everywhere in the county. I mean, we really do a good job of that. And to get registered, of course, the key is going to be getting the university, any university students that register here, getting them in August and getting them registered and all
Yeah.
that. So that's always a big thing. And others moving into the university community too to get registered here.
And I like the idea, Bob, that we can use the library before a certain time in late October to vote.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier to go there than the regular polling place.
Sure.
And
Sure.
there's always lots of places around. You know, if you're just out and about, you can run into several of them and not realize what's going on.
That they're
So,
available at
yeah.
those places.
And on the primaries, I had a meeting at the library, and they happened to be doing early voting. I was like, okay, well, let's take care of this.
Yeah, I'm here, let's do it today.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the right forum for this, but there is going to be something on the ballot other than candidates also this time in Johnson County, and that's the Justice Center vote
Yeah.
For this proposal to build a new jail and then also additional courtrooms back at the courthouse. So I think there's clearly a need there for more
Yeah.
courtrooms and better security and better safety, and the jail is, the jail is really overcrowded, and we're sending, I think it's almost $1 million a year we spend to send prisoners out to other areas. Right now, under my new district that I will have after this election, I have Cedar County and the city of Wilton, and Wilton is actually in Muscatine County, and I ran into the Muscatine County Sheriff. He likes the system the way it is now because Muscatine County is able to house our prisoners, and he gets a pretty good deal with that. They actually built a bigger jail in Muscatine County to house other prisoners. So I guess
think that's kind of the trend, isn't it?
Yeah,
anymore,
yeah.
Build more than what you think you can
Right.
need, because you can generate extra revenue then.
But I'm certain that the Sheriff Polkovic would certainly like to have a better jail so he can take care of the prisoners here, and then offer a little privacy for attorneys and dealing with their clients and everyone else, and more safety and security in the courthouse also. So.
And I think on the Johnson County website, there's some information about that, because a month or so ago at a meeting, they did a presentation about that, and I was horrified at what the situation is, both at the jail and the courthouse, because fortunately I've never had the occasion to be in either of them.
Well, that is one of the things that's sort of interesting, that somebody pointed out that one of the former city council members in Iowa City who grew up in Iowa City said she'd never been in the courthouse. And you don't really have to anymore unless you're in a trial or something related to that, because we have the administration building and all sorts of other programs are done there and not at the courthouse. So, I haven't been in the courthouse a lot either. I was there for meetings of judges because they invite us there and that sort of thing. But it really behooves people to go down and look at the courthouse, and they're going to have several tours of the courthouse and the jail to see what is out there and see the need.
Hopefully, when they add on to the courthouse, they will make it a lot easier to get around. It's not easy.
No.
It is not easily accessible
No.
for many people.
It's a beautiful courthouse, but it isn't. It's barely accessible
Yeah,
now.
barely.
Yeah, barely. And that's really important. They need that, and they'll change it under this new proposal. It's a beautiful proposal. It'll be a beautiful facility.
Well, we've ripped through another show, and I know haven't covered nearly all that we could have, but we certainly want to thank you both for sharing your time with us, and it was very helpful. And who knows, maybe after the election we can get you and your cohorts in here to discuss what the ramifications of things may be then.
Yeah.
But we certainly thank you for your time, and look forward to seeing you out and about.
Thank you. And to that point, the other thing that's going to be on the ballot this fall is there's two new open house seats in Johnson County created by all the growth in the area. And so we'll have two colleagues joining us that will be representing Johnson County and the Iowa House.
Thank you out there. We will see you again next week.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you.